Should fighters be fined and or suspended for not revealing serious injury that greatly hampers their performance on fight night? Okay, there, B. I'm going to go to you first, in fact.
I think something needs to be done. When you have someone that's going, the whole saying that no one's 100% going into a fight, and we've talked about this already. No one's 100% when they wake up in the morning, but you have to be in shape to be able to do your job, right? I can't go to work if I'm not fit to work. A boxer cannot box if he's not fit to box. It's common sense. So if someone's telling you before the fight that they have a minor injury, and that injury turns out to be more than a minor injury, and they're not able to use one of their arms, a fighter needs to use both arms in a fight, right? Same thing with Errol Spence. They found out he had a torn retina. What happened? Can't fight, right? You can't use one of your arms. You can't fight. It's another thing having a pull, a strain. But if you have a torn ACL or you have a jacked up meniscus and torn meniscus, you have a hairline fracture, you go into a fight with a broken hand or something like that, you shouldn't be fighting because you're not fit to fight, right? And if you're going to tell somebody before the fight that you're injured, it's up to the commission to investigate what that injury is. Have you provide medical documentation to show that you've had that injury looked at, and what the doctor's diagnosis is of that injury, and let that doctor determine whether or not the injury is serious or not. Because how many times have we thought sometimes, this is just a pull, this is just a strain. Then we go to the doctors and he starts moving our shoulder around or our elbow around or whatever's hurting us. And then we start going, And then he goes, okay, let's get an x-ray. Oh, let's get an MRI. And then it turns out to be something bigger than what we thought it was. And if we don't get that taken care of, that injury becomes progressively worse. It's the same thing with a fighter. If you go in there with a torn ACL, then you're going to be trying to fight off of a torn ACL. And what's going to happen? You're going to rupture your meniscus because your ACL is not going to be able to stabilize your knee, and you're going to be rubbing up against that meniscus and it's going to tear. So you're just going to become more injured, and that area is going to become more damaged. So yes, I think, when these fighters fill out their pre-fight questionnaires, just like when Manny Pacquiao filled out his pre-fight questionnaire in the Mayweather fight, didn't say his shoulders was injured, right? And then lo and behold, he's asking for a painkiller. Then why didn't you put that on your on the medical form? And then in that situation, he may have exaggerated that injury because he threw 200 jabs with that right shoulder in that fight. And he was moving his arm, he was throwing punches. That to me was a different story. But Russell, that arm was rendered inoperable, right? So he shouldn't have fought. He just shouldn't have fought.
Here's what I'll say before I go to Maestro or Wave. I get it, but in my opinion, if a fighter wants to fight, they should be able to fight. That's just how I feel. That's how I feel. Okay, first of all, it wasn't that bad at first. Magsayo hit him on the shoulder and then he stopped using it cold turkey. Okay, he was still throwing the jab before that, right? That's what happened. Go look at the stat. He went from throwing jabs to throwing no jabs. You can shake your head all you want, but that's what happened.
Okay? I can shake my head all I want, and you can be wrong all you want because he wasn't throwing a lot of jabs.
He's shaking that. I got salt and pepper over here shaking your head.
He was not throwing the jab. He went into the fight with a torn. No. He went into the fight. No. He went into the fight with a no. No. You're misinforming people.
I got salt and pepper shaking your head on me over here. No.
He went into the fight with a torn tendon. He went into the fight with a torn tendon. You're wrong. You're wrong.
I just let you speak.
You're wrong.
Hold on, let me just say what I'm going to say really quick.
I got it, Joe. I'm next. I got it, Joe. Don't worry. I got it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Okay,
that did not injure the fight.
Next. You see? That's fine. No, but check it out really quick. So what I'm saying, he went from throwing it to not throwing it at all. That's what happened. I don't know what he wanted.
10 jabs.
Okay, but is it something? It's 10 a number.
It's a shit
10
number.
jabs better
It's
than
a
no
shit
jabs?
number. It's a shit number.
It's 10 better than none.
Okay,
Well,
let me get
didn't
on.
he say
Get on
this was an injury from early in his career, his pro career? Like,
and he never got it fixed.
he
Yeah,
just never got it fixed.
And it
Andre
required
Ward
surgery.
fought with he wouldn't even shoot his right hand because he didn't have confidence in it because he had fear. They were going to blow it out. That's what happened. He had to have surgery. Then he came back and he looked better than ever in his fight with freaking Kovalev. He even talked about that.
You're not going to
So
tell
what
me
I'm
he wasn't
trying
a
to say
one-on-one
is
fighter.
fighters are going to take risk. Fighters are going to take risks knowing like maybe it's a calculated risk. It might blow out on me in the fight. But this, like, I don't care what gamblers did. Oh, I'm a gambler. I should have known that you had this injury, Russell.
What about consumers? What about consumers
Life's a
who pay
risk,
tickets?
Life's a fucking risk, Holmes. If you want to go bet money. But just know that anything could happen. All right? Too bad.
You wasted your money on it. You wasted your money.
Okay, Joe, let me cook on this. Okay. Negrito va a cocinar un poco. I'm about to frickin' see my brother D style real quick.
Salt and pepper over here shaking their head at me.
Okay, number one, there's a reason why he was able to throw jabs at the beginning and why he wasn't later on with the injury. It's simple. He probably took a painkiller that wore off. His adrenaline probably wore off. Those are two reasons right there, and it was probably a combination of both. That's number one. Number two, how far are we going to logically extend the argument that it should be a fighter's choice? Is it a fighter's choice if he has a broken arm? Is it a fighter's choice if he has a bad heart? Is it a fighter's choice if he's had brain bleeds or if he's got permanent brain damage? Is it a fighter's choice, okay, if he's risking a death, imminent death because of a pre-existing condition? No, it's not the fighter's choice. That's why we have boxing commissions. That's why they have medical staff that are supposed to detect these things. I think we need to go a step further. I think that every state commission should have an MRI machine and that fighters should do MRI scans before their fights. I'd like to see them reinvest some of this money that they pay taxes on to these states, okay, like New York, which, by the way, I live in, which, by the way, taxes us a lot, which, by the way, taxes these fighters a lot. All right, let's reinvest some of that tax money into fighter safety. It should not be up to the fighter because at the end of the day, all you're doing, if you allow that, is for people under very, very bad economic circumstances to take risks that they shouldn't take. Now, you may say, oh, well, he's got a lot of money. What about the guy that doesn't have a lot of money? What about the guy who is fighting because he's got a kid in the hospital or some other reason and maybe has a bunch of medical reasons why he shouldn't be fighting? I'm not for that at all.
Any comment on this shot right here?
Yeah.
The punch definitely affected him.
But it was going to happen regardless because he threw 20 jabs the first 3 rounds and he had a torn tendon in the right shoulder, right? So as soon as the adrenaline wore off, as Maestro said, and the painkiller wore off, he told you that he went into the fight with a torn tendon. So
was there a difference
what are you not understanding about that?
Was there a difference between the third and fourth round and for the remainder of the fight?
He usually throws way more than 22 jabs.
He threw 22 jabs in the first 3 rounds.
But that's not the point, though. Like the point
so
is...
your stance is he injured that... You're telling me he wasn't
so you dictate. You're going to tell Russell, no, you've been out for the ring. No, you don't fight.
Yeah.
You call it shots.
Absolutely.
Injured, absolutely.
And why couldn't Errol Spence fight?
Because you lost money on Russell.
Why did Errol Spence fight with a torn retina? Why couldn't Errol Spence fight with a torn retina? He said he could see.
Caught it.
Okay,
that's right.
But he could see. So why couldn't he fight? He wanted to fight. Why couldn't he fight?
Stop virtual signaling.
No. Why couldn't he fight? Answer the fucking question. Answer the fucking question. Why couldn't he fight? Answer the fucking question. Why couldn't he fight? Why couldn't he fight?
Because they caught him.
I'm holding your feet to the fire. I'm holding your feet to the fire. Be consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. Why couldn't he fight? He said he could fucking see. He wanted to fight. Why couldn't he fight? Why couldn't he fight?
I answered the question.
Margarito wanted to fight with a bad eye. Should we?
He did fight. He fought Cotto. They let him fight in New York.
Yeah,
and let him fight with a fucked up eye. They let him fight in New York.
He
shouldn't fight for 11 rounds.
He shouldn't have been able to fight.
Or 9, whatever it was.
He shouldn't have been able to fight.
Okay, but
blind in one eye.
Where do we draw the line? In other words, what I'm saying is
blind in one eye. So where's the fucking virtue signal there? Sugar Ray Seals is blind in one eye because they didn't do fucking eye exams and it wasn't required. And he's blind in one eye. Go tell him that
Gary Russell.
Go tell him your virtue
Gary
signal.
Russell.
Go tell him your virtue signal.
Before we let Wade go, let me just say this.
That's fucking stupid, bro.
No, because I'll tell you what right now.
Argument that is. That's a
come on, like he.
That's a dumb fucking argument. Okay, let's let people go blind in one eye because
that's not my argument.
That's fucking stupid.
I never said.
Stupid.
Hold on. I never said let people go blind in one eye. When did I say that? What I said was, first of all, this is not even about an eye, is it? The girls have a fucked up eye? No. So I don't even know why you're bringing up an eye. Okay? So let me give you an eye to an eye.
Because you said people should be able to fight if they're injured. You have to fucking be consistent.
Listen,
you have to be consistent.
If you stop interrupting for 1 second, I can tell you what I said. And you don't put words in my mouth, okay? This is what I said.
On fucking camera.
All I said was, this is what I said, Mr. Camera. I know there's a camera. I'm looking at it. I look good on it too. But what I'm saying is, we need to draw the line somewhere. Gary Russell took a calculated risk. He thought, obviously, that he was going to be able to get through this fight, okay? And I don't think he thought Magsayo was going to hit him right in the fucking shoulder with a haymaker and injure him. I don't think he expected that to happen. He was wincing in pain after he got hit in the shoulder. He was taking a risk in doing it. He thought, you know what, I can get through it. Maybe I won't be able to throw as many jabs as I usually do. But that's the choice he made.
Let me interrupt you here. Let's use some fucking common sense. Use your brain for this. Floyd Mayweather, what does he have? He uses the shoulder roll, right? So when you get hit in the shoulder like that, your arm's not supposed to do that. If you didn't have a torn fucking tendon in your fucking right arm, that wouldn't have happened.
That's common fucking sense, this brother. Angle,
so you're trying to tell me Magsayo threw a fucking punch and tore his fucking right tendon. That doesn't make sense. Your argument is flawed, brother. It's fucking flawed.
It's not flawed. It's not flawed because dudes do it all the time.
It's horrifically wrong. It's wrong. Floyd Mayweather used to get hit in the shoulder all the time. A whole fucking
Floyd said, yeah, his shoulder was injured against Castillo.
Let me ask you this.
Because he had a torn rotator cuff.
He fucked up his head in the middle of the ward fight.
Let me interject.
Like this shit happens, bro.
So a guy who gets hit, a guy who gets punched in the shoulder like that, his arm's supposed to go out like that. His arm went out because he had a torn tendon. You should not be fighting if you have a torn tendon.
It got bad. It got worse during the fight. It's his right. Look, I'm just saying.
Not his right.
I'm digging the bell.
Let Errol Spence fight then.
Roy Jones made a fucking rap beat bragging about how he fought with one hand. Okay,
so what I will say is this, and I just want to
end. Beat Bernard Hopkins with one hand, or whatever the fuck you said.
Point on this
doesn't make it right, brother.
Very recently, in fact, last month. British boxer. I'm sure you guys heard this, or the Pakistani British boxer Kash Farouk was forced to retire. I don't think he wanted to retire, but medical reasons forced him to retire. I don't think that if the British Boxing Board of Control and their medical people say that this guy can't fight, that just because he wants to fight, he should be allowed to fight. Are we now going to allow like mentally disabled people to fight? I mean, just because somebody wants to fight, they get.
Come on.
No, but where do we?
Give me a break.
You asked the question. Where do we draw the line? Let me ask you.
Give me a break. Are we going to let mentally people? Give me a break.
If you fail a medical or you don't disclose information that will drastically affect the competitive nature of the contest, there should be no fight. Period.
Maestro, can I ask you a question?
Well, really quick, because we got to let Wave have it, and then we have other topics.
Last point, and I will shut my mouth for the rest of the show.
No, we don't need that.
No, I'm sorry. Let me ask you this question, Maestro. How many times do fighters get hit in the shoulders throughout the course of a fight? You sparred before. How many times have you got hit in the shoulder?
All the time. In fact,
now if someone hits you in the shoulder like that, is your arm supposed to be go out like that? If you didn't already have an injured shoulder?
Kelly injured his shoulder against freaking Chris Bird
because he tore it. Because he tore it.
Well, shame on Vitelli. Shame on him for going in there, tearing his freaking shoulder.
You're breaking my heart right now because you don't care about your fellow man.
I love fighters.
See people die.
I love fighters. I have all the respect for them, but I also
want Errol Spence to go.
We have to draw a line at some point.
Errol Spence wanted to fight.
If a fighter wants to take a calculated risk and go in that ring, that's like depending on the situation. Depending on the situation. Okay, did Manny Pacquiao take a calculated risk having an injured shoulder going to the ring with Mayweather? Yes or no? He asked for therapeutic.
No, can I tell you why? Because I think he over exaggerated the injury. I don't think it was as bad as fucking Russell's.
Maybe it wasn't, but did he? But isn't like if Italian went in there with no injury and injured it, how likely is it if you have an injury that you're going to injure it worse?
Here's the key difference.
In a fight stress environment.
He told you.
Let me
just say
this. So if they tell us it's okay.
He told you.
Thank you.
He told you he had an injury from 2008 that needed surgery. If something needs surgery, that is not a minor injury. Wave, can you answer this, Wave? If someone needs surgery on their shoulder, is that a minor injury?
No, absolutely not.
That's not a Wave. Is that a minor injury?
No, there's a very key difference. Here's the difference. One guy disclosed it and didn't hide it from medical examination.
And he lied.
And he tell us it's okay.
He lied. He lied and said it was minor. He lied and said it was minor, and then he told us after the fight it was major.
The other guy disclosed it, and it was tested by a doctor prior to the fight. Plain and simple. It's not complicated.
He was throwing 20 jabs around. I think he was
You're not a doctor.
He was good enough.
Gary Russell's not a doctor.
He usually throws way more than 20 jabs around.
Okay, but like it's
D-style.
It's
the
calculated risky too.
And the adrenaline was going to wear off. D-style.
Really quick, Beaver. We're going to let Wave go. Then we got to change topics.
I don't think either side is completely wrong because I do think the punch actually affected him. I think you guys make a great point as far as him taking pain. He knew the injury was there before going into the fight, for sure. The injury was there. He said it was always there. Something he was supposed to get surgery for it. He never did. But we can't just act like the punch in that fourth round didn't affect him for the rest of the fight because he went from not using the arm much to not using it at all.
Wave, I agree with you, but that's like saying a guy goes in there with a brain injury and then the brain got hit with a punch and therefore it affected the fight. He still went in with an injury, period.
No, I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that killed it completely. The injury was already there. It's been there. And once he got hit, that made it worse. I think what D-Style is saying as far as taking a calculated risk where there's a lot of fighters that do go into these fights with injuries. Keith Thurman recently said that when he was talking about the whole Cecito Lopez and the Manny Pacquiao fight. He said, listen, I had injuries before going into that fight, but it was Manny Pacquiao. I was not going to risk going into that fight by pulling out of the fight because of the injury. I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do. It's depending on the circumstances. All the circumstances for each fight is different.
That's a very fair point, Wave. My problem is with the keyboard warriors, the sofa mafia that watches these fighters. And I don't know, do they think this is professional wrestling? I don't understand.
No, I want the fighter. That's not a keyboard warrior. Let me ask you.
Real quick. I just want to say, I prefer a fighter to reschedule a fight over what the hell Gary Russell just did because it's like similar with Keith Thurman. Like, let's just say Keith Thurman tomorrow says, I have a little injury. Yo, dude, you're already 2 years. Like, we're already thinking that there's a chance you might not be yourself. Same thing with Gary Russell. We didn't see you in 2 years. We see you, you was a little bit overweight at the weigh-in. So there's a lot of people that think you're going to lose this fight anyway because you're fighting a young, hungry fighter and you've been inactive for 2 years. And then you come out of nowhere and say, I got a little injury. It's like, all right, I don't even know what to even believe at this point.
Wait, my problem.
Let me ask you a quick question.
This is my problem, though. This is my problem with the whole thing.
Really quick, we got 2 more topics.
Yeah, you're right. I apologize. He said it was a minor injury. Can everyone on this panel at least agree that was not a minor injury?
No, it's not at all.
Can we at least agree on that?
He lied.
And he wouldn't even tell us what it was. And then during the fight, Wave, they asked his trainer, and then his trainer said, "There's nothing wrong with his shoulder. He'll tell you what's wrong after the fight." They fucking played us. And it's not about the gamblers, D-Style. It's about people who pay tickets to see a guy who can fight. Manny Pacquiao got sued after that Floyd Mayweather fight.
Yeah.
Okay, but let me say this.
You can't.
Let me ask you a question really quick. Let me ask you a question. It's a kill it all. Do you think Gary knew his shoulder was going to blow out like that?
Yes.
He knew that. He went in there knowing I'm going to fight this dude with one hand. He went in there knowing that. Is what he's saying. You don't know that.
Yes. He thought he could beat the guy with one hand.
He thought he could beat him with one arm.
He thought he was going to be able to minimize the amount of jabs he throws. Okay, and yes, utilize his other hand. But I don't think he knew it was going to go completely out on him. I don't believe it.
Out of curiosity, who do you guys think won the fight?
Magsayo.
I thought Magsayo.
Okay, because it was just like a long wave of people.
I don't even think it was Wave. You know what happened in that fight, in my opinion, Wave? You know what happened in my opinion, Wave?
Yeah.
People saw him fighting with one arm, and they started giving him sympathy rounds, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Am I wrong?
I agree. Like, I was listening to the Porter podcast, and I was surprised how the panel felt. And I'm like, you guys just probably was impressed with the fact that he did that well with one arm. And that he didn't get stopped. I don't think you actually believe he won the fight.
The round before he got hit in the shoulder, he only threw 5 jabs, and that was before he got hit in the shoulder. So it started going out on him in the 3rd round, Wave. Not, you know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I'm going to answer D-Style's question. He thought he could beat that guy with one arm. He was that confident. He thought he was that much better than him that he thought he could beat him with one arm.
Yeah.
I just want to know why I said 3 words, and Maestro and people are like,
3 words. I was waiting.
I'm disappointed in you because you